The boy who fell from the sky. The night was quiet, and the sky was full of stars. A soft wind moved through the trees as the man walked alone on the forest path. He was tired after a long day of work and wanted to go home. His small cabin was not far, but something strange made him stop. A bright flash appeared in the sky. It was not like a normal shooting star. It moved fast, then slow, then fast again. Then it turned and came down like it was falling. The man watched with wide eyes as the light disappeared behind the hills. He felt something in his chest, a mix of fear and curiosity. He did not want to go, but his feet started walking in the direction of the light. Something inside him said that this was important. After 20 minutes of walking, he reached a small open area between the trees. There was a crater in the ground. Smoke came out from the hole. The trees around were burned and the ground was black. In the middle of the crater was a small metal pod. It looked like something from a science movie. It was broken and open from one side. The man slowly walked closer. He heard a soft sound like someone crying. His heart beat faster. He looked inside the pod. There was a boy, not a normal boy. He was small and thin with light blue skin and big black eyes. His clothes were torn and dirty. His hands were shaking. He looked up at the man and tried to speak. The man stepped back in shock, but the boy raised one hand and said in a weak voice, "Please help me. My mom, she is taken. They made her a slave. She is not safe. Please." Then the boy fell. He fainted right there inside the pod. The man stood frozen. He looked around. The forest was silent again. Only the smoke and the soft breath of the boy filled the air. He picked up the boy in his arms. The boy was light, too light. The man walked back to his cabin with quick steps. His mind was full of questions. Who was this boy? What happened to his mother? Who were they? Why did the boy come here? Was someone chasing him at the cabin? The man placed the boy on the old sofa. He gave him water and covered him with a blanket. The boy was cold, but still breathing. The man looked at the boy's face. He did not look dangerous. He looked scared, alone. The man sat on the chair and kept watching him. He did not sleep. The night was long and quiet, but his thoughts were loud. He remembered the boy's voice. That one line kept repeating in his head. They made her a slave. Morning light came slowly. The boy opened his eyes. He looked around with fear, but then he saw the man and relaxed a little. The man smiled and gave him some food. The boy ate slowly. He was weak, but alive. "What is your name?" the man asked. The boy looked down and said, "I am Liar. I came from a place far away, too far." The man nodded. He said his own name was Ray. He lived here alone after the war. He fixed machines and hunted in the forest. He did not like people. But something about this boy felt different. Liar looked at the window. His hands were shaking again. "They will come. They always come. They can find." Murray looked outside. The forest looked normal, but he felt something too, like the trees were watching. Like the wind carried a warning. That evening Ray went outside to check the area. He walked to the place where the pod fell. The smoke was gone, but something else was there now. A small flying machine, like a drone. It was stuck between the branches. Ray pulled it down. It had a red light blinking. Someone was watching. Someone already knew the boy was here. He rushed back to the cabin. Liar was sitting up now, his eyes wide. He looked at the drone in Ray's hand and whispered, "They found Murray." Looked at him, his voice calm but strong. "Then we must be ready outside in the shadows." A pair of red eyes blinked once, then disappeared into the dark. "He's not from here." Morning light came slowly through the trees as Ray stood outside his cabin holding the broken drone in his hand. The red light on it was off now, but he knew someone had already seen everything. He looked back at the cabin where Liar waited with eyes full of fear and secrets. Ray had seen many strange things in his life, but never anything like this. He stepped inside and closed the door quietly. Liar sat on the sofa hugging his knees, looking at the fire that danced softly in the old iron stove. Ray placed the drone on the table and asked the boy again, "Who are you really? Where did you come from?" Liar did not speak for a moment. He looked down, then slowly raised his head and pointed upward. "Through the roof. Far from here. From the stars." Ray felt a chill in his spine. This was not just a lost child. This was someone from another world. They came to our planet in big ships. They said they came in peace. We trusted them. We opened our cities. We let them speak to our leaders, but they wanted only one thing. What thing? Ray asked as he leaned closer. They wanted the source. Leia whispered. It is a power inside certain people. Not everyone has it. My mother had it. She could speak to machines. Without touching them, she could move things just by thinking. They were afraid of her, so they took her. They put a collar on her to stop her powers, and they used her to find others like her. Ray listened without saying a word. He had fought in wars. He had seen powerful weapons and cruel people. But this was different. This was something deeper. Something older. Lear looked at Ray with tired eyes. I was supposed to be hidden. She sent me away. She gave me the pod and told me to run. She said find someone who still has kindness in their heart. Find someone who can help. And then the ship was hit. I lost control. I crashed here. Ray nodded slowly. His hand rested on the old rifle hanging on the wall. He knew they would come, whoever took Liars. Mother would not stop now. Not after the drone sent the signal. You are not safe here, Ray said as he looked around the room. We need to move now. Lear stood up with weak legs. His skin looked pale and his breathing slow. Ray helped him gather some food and warm clothes. They packed quietly. Every sound outside felt louder than before. Every shadow felt alive. Ray opened a hidden door in the floor. Below was a tunnel that led to the old truck garage behind the cabin. He had used it long ago to hide from patrols during the last conflict. Now it would help them again. They climbed into the truck. The engine was loud. Ray drove fast through the narrow forest road. Branches hit the sides and leaves flew in all directions. Liar sat beside him looking out the window with wide eyes. He had never seen trees like these or smelled air so fresh. Where are we going? Lear asked softly. Ray answered without looking back to the old spaceport. If anyone can help us find your mother, it will be someone there. Spaceport was miles away. It was not used anymore. Just broken ships and forgotten machines. But Ray knew a few people who still traded in secrets and stories. They drove for hours without stopping. But as they crossed the old stone bridge, a sudden sound came from the sky. A fast shadow passed above. Ray looked up and saw it, a black hunter ship. No lights, no noise. Only cold metal and dark wings. Lear gasped. They are here. They followed us. Ray pressed the pedal harder. The truck roared as it climbed the hill, but the ship turned and came back. Get down, Ray shouted as the ship fired a pulse beam. It hit the road beside them and sent rocks flying. The truck swerved but kept going. Dust and smoke filled the air. Lear held his head and closed his eyes. Suddenly the air around him changed. The truck lights flickered, the radio crackled, then a bright wave of blue light burst from his hands. Ship above shook in the air and pulled back just for a moment. Ray saw it. He saw the power, the same power. They feared the same power they wanted. Are you okay? Ray asked as the truck raced forward. Lear nodded, but he looked weak. I cannot use it too much. It drains me. It burns like fire inside my chest. Ray knew now they had little time. The boy was not just a refugee. He was something more, something rare. They reached the spaceport just as the sun was setting. Old towers stood like bones of giants. Rust covered every wall, but inside one of the hangars, a light still burned. Ray parked the truck and turned to Lear. Stay close. Do not trust anyone, not even the ones who smile. They walked into the shadow of the hangar, not knowing that far above another ship had already locked onto their signal. The hunters are coming inside the old hangar. The air was thick with dust and the scent of rusted iron. Ray moved slowly, his eyes sharp and ready for anything. Lear followed close behind, his small hands holding tightly to the side of Ray's jacket. Each step echoed like a whisper in a haunted house. The hangar was filled with broken machines, some old mining bots, some cargo loaders, and one large ship that looked half dead. Its wings were cracked, its engine silent, and vines had started growing through the floor. Under it, Ray scanned the place carefully, and then knocked 3 times on a metal wall near the back corner. A soft click responded, and a part of the wall slid open like a secret. Doran, old man, stood inside, his beard white and long, his eyes half metal and half glass. "Ray," he said in a dry voice. "You still alive?" Ray nodded and pushed Lyre gently forward. "We need help." The old man looked at Lyre and raised one brow. "He is not from here, not even close." Inside the small hidden room were maps, tools, and screens that still worked. The old man sat down in front of a screen and typed something fast. His fingers moved like spiders dancing on a web. Ray told him everything: the crash, the drone, the ship, the hunters. The old man listened without blinking. "They are searching for something," he said. "Not just the boy, something inside him." Lyre looked down and touched his chest. "They want the source. They think if they take it, they can control it. But it is not a thing you can hold. It is alive." Ray turned to the old man. "We need to find his mother. She has the answers. She has the key to stop them." The old man opened another screen. A wave of strange symbols moved across it. He pointed at one part and said this signal came from a prison ship 3 days ago. It matched the same energy from this boy. Ray clenched his fists. "Where is it now?" "Moving toward the slave colonies near the Iron Moons," he said. "If they take her there, she will vanish forever." Before they could speak again, the alarm on the wall blinked. Red motion detected, air signal breached. Something was coming. Ray grabbed his weapon and pulled. Lyre behind the desk. The old man shut the lights and covered the screens. A soft hum came from above. "They are here," Lyre whispered. "I can feel them outside." Black ships landed without sound, doors opened, and tall hunters stepped out. They wore dark armor with glowing marks. Their faces were hidden behind smooth silver masks. One of them touched the ground and scanned the area. Another raised a small device. It beeped once. Then again. They were close inside the hangar. Ray moved toward the side door. He opened it carefully and signaled Lyre and the old man to follow. They slipped into a dark hallway behind the hangar. The sound of boots echoed nearby. The hunters entered the hangar and spread out. They spoke in a strange, cold language. Their eyes scanned every surface. One of them stopped near the broken ship and knelt down. He touched a footprint on the dusty floor. Then he turned toward the wall, where the secret door had closed. Ray led them into a tunnel that connected to the underground fuel lines. They moved fast through the narrow path. Lyre stumbled, but Ray caught him every time. The old man stayed behind them, his hands ready with small electric traps. "We cannot outrun them," Lyre said. "They can smell thought. They hear silence." Ray looked at the boy. "Can you stop them?" "Even for a minute?" Lyre shook his head. "Not alone. I need focus. I need calm. But I feel only fear." They reached an old elevator shaft. The old man opened a hatch and motioned them in. Ray pulled Lyre inside, and the old man followed last. The lift began to drop slowly down into the lower levels of the spaceport above them. Metal doors burst open, and the hunters entered the tunnel. One of them placed his hand on the wall. A soft blue wave passed through the stone. It revealed the heat marks of their trail. The hunters followed in. The lower level, the elevator stopped with a thud. They stepped into a large cold room full of power cells and broken drones. Ray looked around for a way out. Then he heard a faint sound. The hum of the hunter's ship overhead. "We have minutes," he said. Lyre closed his eyes and sat on the floor. His fingers touched the ground. A low sound started to grow from the walls. The machines around them flickered and came to life. "What are you doing?" Ray asked. "I am not stopping them," Lyre said. "I am waking the place." Lights blinked. Drones turned their heads. Engines rumbled. The spaceport was no longer dead. Hunters entered just as the machines moved. One drone flew straight into a hunter, knocking him back. A second threw sparks into the air, blinding another. Ray grabbed Lyre and ran through the chaos. The old man stayed to hold the door. "You go," he shouted. "I will slow them." Ray and Lyre escaped into the waste tunnels that led far from the port. The sounds of battle faded behind them. In the dark quiet of the tunnel, Ray looked at Lyre. "You are not just a boy." Lyre looked back with tired, glowing eyes. "And you are not just a man." The mother's secret. Waste tunnel stretched for miles, cold, dark, and filled with the smell of old metal and damp stone. Ray walked ahead holding a small flashlight made from scraps, its light shaking with every step. Lyre followed close, his breathing soft and slow, his skin pale, and his energy low. They had escaped the hunters, but not the fear. It stayed with them like a shadow that never slept. Hours passed in silence, until they reached a ladder that climbed up into a sealed chamber. Ray pushed the hatch open and looked around. The room above was part of an old mining station, abandoned and forgotten like many things on this side of the galaxy. He helped Lear climb out and laid him gently on a soft metal bench. "Covered in dust, rest here," Ray said. "I will check the area." Lear nodded, but his eyes stayed half closed. His mind was somewhere far, somewhere deeper than the room they stood in. Ray found an old power panel and managed to pull energy from the backup. Salva lights blinked weakly and then glowed a soft yellow, enough to keep them warm and hidden for a while. Lear sat up slowly. "Ray," he said in a tired voice, "there is something I have not told you, something I kept inside, because I was afraid." Ray turned and looked at him, his face calm, his eyes steady. Tell Melior reached into the small bag he carried. From a hidden pocket, he pulled out a silver disc no bigger than his palm. It glowed gently as he touched it. "This belonged to my mother. It holds her voice, her message." Ray sat beside him as Lyre placed the disc on the bench. The glow grew brighter, and then a shape formed above it, a woman's face, kind, strong, and full of light. She looked like Lyre, but older and wiser. Her voice filled the room like a song made of stars. "If you are hearing this, my son, it means you are alive and safe. It means you reached someone who has not forgotten what it means to be human." Ray looked up at the words, his chest heavy with emotions he did not understand. Mother's voice continued, "They came from me because I carry the source, but they do not understand it. They want to use it like a weapon. But the source is not for war. It is for healing. It is for building. It is for peace." She paused for a moment, her eyes now more serious. "My son, you have it too, maybe more than me, but it will hurt you if you do not learn to control it. It listens to your heart, not your mind." Lear watched the image with tears in his eyes. Ray placed a hand on his shoulder. The boy was not just fighting to find his mother, he was fighting to find himself. The message changed. Now the image showed symbols. "Star maps, coordinates. This," she said, "is where they are taking me, a transport station near the moons of red iron. They will hold me there for 6 cycles before moving me deeper into the slave colonies. If you reach this message before then, you must come, you must free me and free the others." The light dimmed. The disc turned black. The message ended, but the silence it left behind spoke louder than any words. Ray stood and looked at the map. He recognized the area, dangerous and full of old war ruins. "No clear path, but maybe a chance. We will go," he said. "We will find her." Lear nodded, but fear still danced in his voice. "Even if we reach her, how do we fight them? They have ships, they have soldiers. They have no hearts." Ray opened his bag and pulled out a worn picture. A team of people in uniform, soldiers from the past. One of them was Ray. "You are not the only one who lost someone," he said. "I once had a reason to fight. Now I have a reason again." They left the station before sunrise, moving through old roads and forgotten paths. At night they slept under broken towers. During the day they walked through dust and silence. After 2 days they reached a market town built inside an old crater. Shops made from crashed ships, traders from 100 worlds, eyes always watching. Ray found an old contact, a woman who sold starship parts and secrets. She looked at Lyre, then back at Ray. "Do you know what you are carrying?" she asked. "I know enough," Ray replied. She gave them a chip, a stolen access code for the prison station. "It will open one door, only one. Use it well." Ray nodded. He gave her a promise instead of credits, a promise of help. When the sky starts falling, they took a cargo skimmer and headed toward the moons of red iron. The sky turned darker as they crossed into restricted space. No ships, no signals, only silence and stone. Lear closed his eyes and reached into the quiet. "I feel her," he said. "She is close. But something else is there too." Ray looked ahead. In the distance, a black tower rose from the surface. Lights blinking, guards moving. "That," he said, "is where she is." They had arrived. But the hardest part was still to come. The planet of slaves. The air on the moon was dry and heavy, as if the planet itself did not want to breathe. The sky above was red like rust, and the clouds moved slowly like smoke trapped in time. Ray and Liar stepped off the cargo skimmer and looked around at the vast prison field before them. Towers made of metal and ash reached into the sky, like fingers grasping for something lost. The black tower they had seen from the hills stood in the center of the slave zone. It was quiet from far, but alive with movement at the base. Guards in heavy armor walked in circles around fences made of blue energy. Inside those fences were people, many kinds, tall and small, blue skin, green skin, dark eyes, glowing marks. All of them silent, all of them broken. Lear's heart shook as he looked at them. I feel them, he said. They are empty inside. Not dead, just forgotten. Ray kept his eyes forward. We cannot help them all. We find your mother, then we find a way to end this. They moved toward a service tunnel on the edge of the camp. Ray had used tunnels like these before during old missions in ruined war zones. The stolen access chip was hidden under Liar's wristband. They reached a locked gate with blinking lights and a silent alarm. Ray held his breath. Liar placed his hand near the lock. The chip activated with a soft hum, and the gate opened just wide enough. They slipped inside and closed it behind them. The tunnel was narrow and dark. Metal pipes dripped water from broken joints. A low sound came from above, like machines breathing in their sleep. They followed a map Ray had carved into a metal plate the night before. It led them past supply halls and into the lower slave blocks where special prisoners were kept. Guards walked above, but did not see them. The tunnel ended at a broken wall. Ray pushed a loose panel and opened a hole just wide enough to look through on. The other side was a holding cell with a glass wall and a red light above it. Inside stood a woman with blue skin and silver lines across her arms. She was tall and calm, her eyes closed. She did not move, but something about her felt powerful, like the storm waiting inside a quiet sky. Lear gasped, "It's her." "That's my mother." Ray looked around for guards. Only one stood at the far door, half asleep with a blaster at his side. Ray reached into his bag and pulled out a sonic dart. He aimed carefully and fired. The dart flew silent and hit the guard in the neck. He fell without a sound. They stepped into the cell chamber quietly. Lear ran to the glass and placed his hand on it. The woman opened her eyes slowly. She looked at the boy and smiled. "You made it," she whispered. "My son." Ray looked at the control panel, locked with a code. He turned to Liar. "Can you do it again?" Lear stepped forward and placed both hands on the panel. His eyes glowed softly. The lights blinked and the lock released. The glass wall opened. She stepped out and embraced Liar, her voice soft but strong. "You grew so much. You held the source. You carried it without breaking." Ray kept watch. "This is not the time for words. We have to leave now." But the floor shook. A loud alarm echoed through the chamber. Someone had found the open gate. They were coming. The mother turned to Ray. "Follow me. I know a path." She led them through a hidden stair behind the wall. It went down into the old mining levels where scanners did not reach. As they ran, the air turned thicker and lights flickered. They passed more cells, some with people still inside. "We cannot leave them," Liar said. His mother stopped. "You are right." She placed her hand on a control pad near the wall. The source flowed through her fingers like liquid light. The cells opened one by one. Faces looked up with confusion and hope. "Come with us," she said. "Now is your only chance." The freed prisoners followed, weak and afraid. But they moved. Guards shouted above. Footsteps thundered. Ray led them through smoke and darkness. Blasts hit the walls. Sparks flew. Dust filled their lungs. They reached an old lift. Ray jammed the controls, and the door opened. Too many to fit, so he stayed behind and sent the others first. "I will follow," he shouted. "Go now." The lift rose. Ray turned and faced the hall. 3 guards came in. He fought like fire, old, but not weak, a soldier once more. The second lift came. He jumped in just as more shots hit the floor behind him. They reached the surface, the sky now full of black ships, but also one rebel freighter that had picked up the signal from the prison. A woman stood at the back door of the ship waving them in. She was from the old spaceport. She had not forgotten the promise Ray made. They all climbed aboard, every soul, every scar. The freighter lifted into the red sky as the planet burned. Bilalier sat beside his mother. He looked at Ray. Are we safe now? Ray looked out the window. Not yet. But we are not alone anymore, breaking the chains. The rebel freighter flew like a silent ghost through the dark sky, leaving the red moon far behind. Its engines whispered across the stars, as inside it carried the forgotten, the broken, and the brave. Lear sat between his mother and Ray, his eyes open, but lost in a storm of thought. He felt joy, he felt fear, he felt something rising inside him like a voice that had waited years to speak. The ship was old, but fast, its halls filled with strange tools and flickering lights. Rebels moved around, helping the weak and guiding the newly freed slaves to rest areas. Some cried softly, some just stared. But one thing was the same in all of them: hope had returned. Stood with the pilot near the front cabin, a woman with one arm made of metal and eyes like ice. She looked at him and asked the question he already feared: where do we go now? Ray turned to Lear's mother. She stood tall, her wounds deep, but her spirit unbroken. We go to the core station, she said. It is where the chains begin, and where they must end. The pilot hesitated. That place is guarded by war fleets and shield walls. No ship enters without burning, Ray answered for her. Then we fly through fire. The plan was simple, but impossible. They would approach the main control station from the shadow side of the broken moon, a blind spot in the scanners caused by a mining blast long ago. Once inside, they would use the source to disable the slave network and release all control callers across the galaxy. But time was not on their side. The enemy had learned of the escape, and they were already hunting. A signal burst through the ship's main console, a message of warning. 3 hunter ships approaching from behind, fast, armed, merciless. The pilot turned hard, and the ship dropped like a falling star. Metal shook, lights dimmed, but they stayed in the shadow of the moon just long enough to vanish from the hunter's view. They reached the edge of the core station and saw it at last. A giant ring floating in space, covered in glowing towers and spinning cores. Inside that place was the command signal source of all callers, all chains. Ray gathered the team in the main hold. We only get one chance. We enter through the lower docks, split into 3 teams. One disables security, one reaches the signal tower, and the last protects the freed prisoners. Who will sneak in with us disguised as cargo workers? Lear raised his hand. I go with my mother. To the tower, Ray nodded. Then I guard your backs. The docking was rough. The alarm sounded before their feet touched the floor. Guards in silver armor stormed. The hall's blasters fired, walls cracked. The rebels fought like shadows, moving fast, striking faster. Lear ran with his mother through the power bridge. The path was narrow and hot lasers shot across the sides. But together they moved like wind and flame. Her hand guided, his power shielded. One blast hit the floor beside them. Lear fell to his knees. The energy inside him surged out, not wild, but pure. The blast wave pushed the guards back. Some fell, some ran. They reached the signal tower, a tall black column covered in red lights and spinning rings. At the center was a control core, floating, glowing. Lear's mother stepped forward, her voice soft but strong. This is where they control fear, where they press pain into every mind wearing a collar. But no more. She placed both hands on the core. Lear placed his hands beside hers. The lights turned blue, then white, then silent. The signal cracked. The control link broke across the stars. Every collar blinked, then unlocked one by one, on ships and prisons, in mines, in dark rooms across 1,000 worlds. The chains fell. Ray fought in the lower halls, his arm bleeding but his focus sharp. He watched the guards panic as prisoners rose and fought back. No longer slaves, now voices, now people. The pilot called through the "Come, we have to leave now. They are launching warships." Ray signaled the teams fall back. Now they ran through the burning halls, carrying the weak, helping the wounded. The freighter engines roared, the dock doors opened. Lear turned once before stepping onto the ship. He looked at the tower as it burned from the inside, not with fire, but with light. He had done what many could not. He broke the chains. The freighter rose into space just as the station behind it cracked. A soft explosion followed. Not loud, not deadly, but enough to send a message. Ray sat down at the back of the ship, breathing hard. Liar sat beside him. His mother stood at the front watching the stars. "Are we free now?" Liar asked. Ray looked at him. "Not yet, but for the first time, we have the sky on our side." The truth they hid from us. The stars looked different now as the freighter moved through deep space. They no longer watched in silence. They listened. Ray stood near the window staring into the black. Liar slept quietly wrapped in a blanket made from old sails. His chest moved slowly, his breath calm. His mother stood near the engine room whispering to the ship like it could hear her. Maybe it could. The rebel pilot watched her controls as soft lights blinked across the map. Something was shifting. Across the systems, something big. The control signal was gone. The network was broken. The chains had fallen. But not all hearts were free. Ray walked to the back where a small room held maps, old files, and a quiet table. He placed a worn data card into the reader and watched as files appeared, some marked in red, some locked with strange codes. One file opened by itself. It was a message from a human station. Not from another world, but from Earth. Ray leaned forward. The voice spoke clear and cold. Source was discovered many years ago during early exploration missions. Not by accident, but by design. A man in a black suit appeared on the screen. He looked like a leader, but not one with kindness. "We tested it," he said. "We found it in children, in people from distant worlds. We knew it was rare. We knew it was powerful. We feared it, and so we controlled it." Ray clenched his fists. He saw more files, experiments, maps, names, photos of children with glowing eyes. Children like Lior. The voice continued. "We made deals with those who could catch them. We promised power to those who helped. We hid the truth under words like safety, progress, balance. But in the end, we were afraid of what they could become." Ray closed the file and sat back. The truth was heavy, not alien, but human. He walked to the main room where the others sat. Liar was awake now. His mother held his hand. The rebels looked at Ray with silent questions. Looked at them all and spoke without fear. "It was us. We built this, not them. We let this happen. The ones who took your people. They worked with humans, with governments, with systems that chose fear over truth." The room stayed quiet, not with shock, but with understanding. Lear stood up slowly, his voice soft but steady. "Then we will show them another way." His mother nodded. The source was never a weapon. It was a bridge between minds, between worlds, between futures. Ray stepped forward. "We send the truth to every system, every station, every home. Let them see what was hidden. Let them choose who they want to bait." Rebels worked fast. They used the freighter's old broadcast tools. They spread the files, the names, the images, the voices, across every open channel. Truth like fire, truth like light in distant corners of space. Families saw the faces of those taken. Workers in deep mines dropped their tools. Children with powers they had hidden finally spoke. Ships once loyal to silence turned toward freedom. Some leaders denied it. Some stations shut down transmissions. But the truth had already landed. It could not be chained again. Lear looked out the window, his eyes glowing not with power but with peace. "What now?" he asked. His mother smiled. "Now we build." The freighter became more than a ship. It became a symbol, a place where the broken could rest, where the lost could speak, where the gifted could grow. Ray stayed with them, not as a soldier, but as a guide. They visited the moons of stone, the stars of silver, the planets where scars still bled. They healed what they could, shared what they knew. They taught the source not as a curse, but as a choice. Years passed. The name Liar spread like a quiet wind, not as a hero, but as a child who chose hope. One day, he stood on a green hill under a sky that no longer feared. He looked at the horizon. Ray stood beside him, older, but smiling. "Do you ever think of the day you fell from the sky?" Ray Skedlier nodded. "I was afraid. I was alone. But you found me, and now no one else has to feel that way again." Ray placed a hand on his shoulder. "You were never just a boy, and you were never just a man," Liar said with a smile. The stars above blinked gently, not cold, not silent. They listened. They remembered the truth had been hidden, but no longer. Now it lived in every voice that chose to speak. In every hand that reached across fear, in every chain that never formed, this was not the end, it never had been, this was the beginning.